Hello, welcome to another Facts and Dimensions AI video. Good news, Snowflake have allowed us data providers to add semantic views. These are the views that you make in Snowflake for using with the Snowflake Cortex AI system into our shares and our listings. So the Facts and Dimensions listing now has one semantic view added, which I'm about to show you, and we'll be adding more and more semantic views as we go along. Before I carry on, the way to get access to this free for 30 days, follow the link in the description for this video. That will take you to here where you can sign up for a free trial, or if you're already logged into Snowflake, it will take you directly to our listing on the Snowflake marketplace where you can get access to all the data and the semantic view and views when I started making more. Right, so I've based this semantic view I'm about to show you on this table. So as people who already use our system know, all it is one massive database with thousands and thousands and thousands of tables of data covering all kinds of open data sets. Yeah, just looking here, FDA drugs, family court data, friends and family tests, that's an NHS one, health acquired infections and so on. The problem is that there's such a massive amount of data, unless you actually already know what table or schema of tables has the data you're looking for, you're not necessarily going to know to look for it. And for example, this one right here, it says HAI. Unless you already knew in advance what that stood for, you wouldn't know that that might be health acquired infections. Now, that would be okay because you would use this table, which has been in the system since the start. Release details. All available tables where table schema equals HAI. So in this table, we've got a list of every table we have, the table schema, the table name, and the description. And you can see from the description the sort of stuff that it is. But there are some tables, like for example, Public Health England. If I just go and find that, that's from the fingertips. Where is it now? Here it is, Public Health Outcomes Framework. You wouldn't necessarily know what sort of data is in there because the table is Public Health Outcomes Framework, data all areas. So we could look in this table here. And that would tell you the schema, the tables, and a bit of a description. Public Health Outcome Framework, all areas. Doesn't really tell you a lot about it. To actually know what sort of data is in there, you'd have to go into the table and query it. Now there's thousands of tables and we're constantly adding new tables every week. So we've added a new table, which I've already told everyone in a previous video, which has every single value from every single table in every single schema in the entire database, including how many times that value appeared and what the date was that it last appeared. And you can use that to better query it. Now, just last week, using Cortex AI, we've added a semantic layer on top, and you can get access to it just by trialing out the Facts and Dimensions data trial. And then when you go to open it, you can choose from the list of semantic views. At the moment, there's only one, but in the future, there'll be several, and that'll take you straight to here. And then you can start asking questions like, do you have any data on stroke, say? So that's written the query for me, and it's looking at the various columns and looking to see if the word stroke is in any of those columns. And that has returned all of the instances where the word stroke is in either the table name or the column value in one of the columns, or the table description or the URL. And there's lots and lots of tables where the word stroke comes up. Now you might want to just know just a list of the tables that those values appear in, so we can write it again. Please return that list. No, please return a distinct list of the tables from that data set, I guess. It's pretty clear. It doesn't seem to matter how I word it, as long as I'm making some sense. It seems to be clever enough to work out what I mean. But even if it isn't, it will give you the select statement that it wrote in its interpretation, and you can read that and check if you're happy that it has actually interpreted your question correctly. And you should always do that. Don't just assume that it's correctly interpreting what you're saying. Yes, it has done it. Right, select distinct view schema.name where it meets those values. There we have just the list of all the tables where the word stroke appeared in one of either the column named values in the columns, or the column names, or the table names. Now, I might want to, because there's quite a lot there, I might be interested in knowing which one seems to have a lot of data on a stroke. So I'll just add a bit more. Please please include a sum of row count, because I do have that column in the table. This is the table, remember, that we're looking at, and you've got the row count, and you've got the latest snapshot date that it appeared in. So please include a sum of row count and the latest date, and order by row count descending. What I want to do here is get like the table that I'm most likely going to be interested in at the top. Right, so now I can see that these snap tables, that's the stroke tables, these ones seem to have an awful lot. Well, of course they would, because they are to do with stroke, but you might not know that, given that the schema name is SSNAP, and so you're not necessarily going to know that the first S in that stands for stroke. So this is how you can then determine which tables you then want to go and have a look at. Just going a little bit further, let's say you're interested in tables that had something to do with stroke and also something to do with, say, a particular GP practice, let's say. Let's have a look at the list of GP practices we have. So select star from ODS ODS API organization. Let's just have a look at that. Well, I don't want to spend 5 minutes recording me querying various stuff. So I'm just going to do, right, so where name, like, practice, let's just do that for now. I mean, because Snowflake is case sensitive. Including the column names. Something to bear in mind there. Okay, so let's say where Connersborough group practice. What tables have data on Connersborough group practice? Now, in a later version of this, we're going to add in the geographical parents, grandparents, children and grandchildren of every organisation and geographical area. So that say we could say what data do you have on Suffolk, for example, and then it would return all the tables that have stuff on GP practices that are in Suffolk, or data that's on the east of England, because that's the area of England that Suffolk resides in. That's not in, that will be in a future version. I'll do another video when I do that. Okay, so this has given me a list of tables where that particular practice has actually appeared in some of the data. Now, what I'd like to know is what tables from this list that has stuff to do with stroke are also in this list. So what tables appear in both those results I just typed? What tables contain data on both stroke and Connersborough group practice? Now that might actually start looking for data where the term Connersborough group practice and the word stroke are in the same row, and I can see from the where clause that's actually what it's doing, so that's not going to be what we need. One thing I'd like Snowflake to add actually is the ability to stop it executing the query when I know from looking at the query that it's going to return data I don't want. Or better, it should generate the query and then ask me, do I want to actually run this query? Okay, well, it has actually found one, and it's just this one because this is a table with the word stroke in it, hence table description like stroke. And there is a column with Conisbrough Group Practice. But what I want is the tables that have both, because I would expect the table itself to have some data on stroke and the value Conisbrough Group Practice in one of the other columns, the GP Practice column. So let's try that. Please create a list of tables with stroke in and another list of tables with Conisbrough Group Practice in, then return the list of tables that appear in both. Let's see if that works. So this is how it's interpreting it. Create two lists of tables, one with tables containing data on stroke and the other with tables containing data on Conisbrough Group Practice, and then return a list of tables that appear in both lists. It's pretty much exactly how I wrote it. Okay, right, now this looks more like it. So using the CTE, it's created a table called stroke tables, which is a select distinct list of tables where the word stroke appears, and another CTE called Conisbrough tables, with a distinct list of tables where Conisbrough Group Practice exists, and then it's returning the list of tables that appear in both. Yeah, this is what I need. So it's now returned this bunch of tables. These are the tables where the word stroke is in either the description or the table name or in one of the values in one of the columns of the table. And Conisbrough Group Practice is also in the table name or the table description, or more than likely one of the one of the values in one of the columns of the table. So let's just add on, please add on sum of row count and latest date, and put that in descending row count order. I'm getting the spelling right, but I have many times I've got the spelling wrong and it still works out what I meant. So you can see, it's interpreted it like this: create two lists of tables, one with tables containing data on stroke, and the other with tables containing data on Conisbrough Group Practice. Then return a list of tables that appear in both lists, including the sum of row count and the latest date, ordered by row count in descending order. That's exactly what I wanted. And it is doing it. It's now ordered by. And I hadn't even heard of the Snowflake function greatest, but there we go. Oh, I see. It's using the greatest latest date from whichever table. Although that's not necessary because we're only looking at ones where the values are in both tables. But of course, the latest date that Conisbrough Group Practice appeared in table X won't necessarily be the latest date that the word stroke appeared in that same table, especially as a stroke in most of these cases is actually in the table description. So that would be all the values essentially being stroke. But, well, it's doing what I've told it to do. The fact that it's not precisely what I wanted it to do is my problem. I should word it correctly, shouldn't I? But anyway, this will do for what I'm trying to achieve here. Right, that's the list of tables. So this one is the most popular table. And then you can go from there and just have a little look and apply. So let's just take this table and let's go and have a look in a query, shall we? Select star from. Now remember, with Snowflake, the object names and the values are all case sensitive. So with object names, you need to use speech marks. Otherwise, even if you don't use uppercase letters, if you don't use speech marks, it will just interpret it as if you had written all uppercase and then not find the object. Right, so this table has some rows with Conisbrough Practice, and also has, well, the table name has the word stroke, so that's why that's come up. Anyway, I'll leave the video there, so that should be enough to get you started. as I say, follow the in the description. I've got a link where you can get free 30-day access to Snowflake and to this data. Thanks.